Welcome to the Explainer. So if you're managing people, leading projects, or, developing teams, you already know exactly what the messy middle of management looks like. It's that super complex, kind of frustrating space where your beautifully written strategies just completely crash into everyday human reality, right? It's where teams either thrive or they completely stall out. Well, today we're diving into a masterclass on navigating that messy middle. We're drawing directly from Clements' incredibly practical book, 30 Coaching Tools and Approaches That Actually Work. We're going to strip away all the dense academic theory and focus on a premium consultancy level framework that you can literally start using in your very next one-to-one. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to just take a second and think about your calendar for this week. Look at your upcoming one-on-ones, your performance reviews, or your team check-ins. Are your workplace conversations well stocked? Picture that specific team member who just seems to be spinning their wheels, or maybe that highly capable manager who's suddenly hesitant to make a decision. How often do you find yourself in a meeting where the conversation just goes round and round in circles and absolutely nothing changes by the time you walk out the door? If you're not in your head right now, trust me, you're definitely not alone. These are the exact everyday realities leaders face on the ground. We're talking about those unclear conversations where expectations are just repeatedly missed. We're talking about a chronic lack of confidence, poor ownership, where people just kind of sit back and wait to be told what to do, weak feedback that doesn't actually drive any real improvement, low trust and completely stuck thinking. Now, when you're staring across the table at an employee who's overwhelmed or disengaged, abstract academic leadership theories, they don't help you. You need a practical working toolkit designed for real people and real change. And that brings us to the core of today's Explainer. Chapter 10, Support and Challenge Matrix. What I absolutely love about this approach is that it cuts right through all the noise. It's a deceptively simple, highly visual diagnostic tool. It gives you an immediate, shared language to understand exactly what kind of environment you're creating for your team. Plus, it gives you a super clear roadmap for how to unstick those difficult conversations and build stronger, way more accountable professionals. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it functions purely on two key axes. Imagine a graph where on the vertical axis we have challenge and on the horizontal axis we have support. By plotting these two simple forces against each other, we instantly create a 2x2 grid that reveals four distinct working environments. And look, this isn't about unfairly labeling your team members. No, it's about diagnosing the reality of their daily experience, so you can figure out exactly what needs to shift to help them move forward. So let's define these two powerful forces. Support is all about the help, the encouragement, the psychological safety, the resources, and the guidance people receive. Challenge, on the other hand, is about the stretch. It's the expectation, the accountability, the ambition, and that push towards better performance. The absolutely crucial point here is this. Great leadership requires a delicate, really deliberate balance of both. If you only have one without the other, well, things start to break down pretty quickly. To really understand why this balance is just so critical, let's look at the extremes. Imagine an environment of high challenge but low support. This is the burnout zone. Expectations are sky high, but resources and safety practically non-existent. People feel stress, fear, maybe even a bit of paranoia. They're overloaded and frankly lonely. Now flip it. What about high support but low challenge? Welcome to the cozy club. People feel smothered and cared for, but they aren't developing at all. The environment is warm, sure, but it's completely drifting, underachieving, and ultimately super frustrating for your high performers. Let's be real, neither of these extremes produces lasting growth. The ultimate goal, the sweet spot if you will, is the top right quadrant, high support and high challenge. This is absolutely the healthiest, most developmental zone you can create as a leader. This is where your people feel stretched, but they definitely don't feel abandoned. They know expectations are high, but they also know they have full access to your guidance, your feedback, and your resources. They are held accountable, but they're completely safe. They're challenged, but they aren't crushed. So the big question, how do we actually move our teams into this sweet spot? Well, it starts by shifting from theory to application, right, in your coaching conversations. You can literally draw this matrix on a piece of paper during a one-to-one and just ask your team member where they feel they're currently sitting. Then you ask these highly practical questions. What challenge is missing here? Or what support needs to increase for you to hit this goal? You can even ask them directly what needs to be increased first. Support, challenge, or both. Doing this completely changes the dynamic from a manager just lecturing an employee to a real collaborative diagnosis. Let's walk through a quick relatable scenario. Imagine you're leading a team trapped in that cozy club we talked about. Relationships are pleasant. There's absolutely no open conflict, but ambition has totally flatlined and deadlines keep slipping. First, you diagnose this current zone without any judgment. You just recognize it's an environment of high support but low challenge. Once you see that dynamic, you can pinpoint the missing element. They need stretch assignments and they need honest, direct feedback. From there, you adjust your style. You deliberately inject accountability into your next meeting. Finally, you sustain that balance, ensuring that as the challenge rises, you're also checking in so you don't accidentally tip them over into the burnout zone. It's this continuous dynamic balancing act. Now, as you start applying this, you really need to watch out for a few common pitfalls. First up, never assume support and challenge mean the same thing to everyone. What feels like a really healthy stretch to one person might feel like totally crushing pressure to another. Second, please do not use this matrix to permanently label people. It's a tool to open up a conversation, not close it down. Also, remember that support does not mean being soft. Clarity and honest feedback are highly supportive, and challenge certainly doesn't mean harsh pressure. Finally, the biggest mistake of all is raising challenge without increasing support. That is literally a one-way ticket to team burnout. Let's move to and see how this builds into our next concept. This actually brings up a really crucial point explored in Chapter 12. If we acknowledge that support and challenge mean completely different things to different people, how do we know exactly what to provide? Well, this introduces the Spectral Management Type Inventory, or SMTI for short. It's a fantastic diagnostic tool for understanding exactly who you're supporting. Because you see, delivering the right support and the right challenge requires a really deep understanding of an individual's diverse motivational drivers. The SMTI framework uses this highly memorable color spectrum to identify what gives people energy. A red driver, for example, is motivated by action, pace, and just getting things done. A blue driver, though, is motivated by systematized, careful planning and logic. So think about it. If you try to support a blue team member by pushing them to move super fast without a plan, they won't feel supported at all. They'll just feel incredibly stressed. If you challenge a red team member by asking them to write a 50-page process manual, their energy will vanish entirely. Customizing your support and your challenge to an individual's unique style, that's what elevates good management to great coaching. Bringing this all back to our opening hook about those stuck conversations. When you use the support and challenge matrix alongside an understanding of your team's motivational drivers, you finally stop trying to fix everything yourself. As Fred Clements beautifully puts it in the book, coaching is not about rescuing people with our wisdom. It is about helping them access their own. Applying these frameworks unblocks that hesitation. It fosters profound psychological safety and it drives true lasting ownership within your team. So if you're ready to stop managing the messy middle and start coaching your way through it, you really need this entire toolkit at your fingertips. For more information, head over to clementsconsultancy.com to buy a discounted PDF copy of the book, or head over to Amazon for the ebook or printed version. I want to leave you with one final kind of provocative thought as you look at your schedule for the rest of the week. Look at the people you lead. Look at the conversations you're about to have and ask yourself honestly, are you challenging constructively or simply applying pressure? The answer to that question might just be the absolute key to unlocking your team's true potential. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.